Certainly, at the very least, those scary-looking clouds, as we refer to them. But it does. This would be looking toward the portion of the storm that
right
has
now.
rotation with it.
I'm a fucking
It's just again a little tough to see. The contrast is rough when storms are at this time of day. The sun isn't necessarily shining on the front side of it, which gives you a really good, clean view. And so that is something we're keeping a close eye on, though. Certainly something to watch.
Absolutely. And what we've kind of been talking about with these storms as they move through, even though it is a storm that has radar indicated rotation, the reason that we say that it is still a storm to take very seriously is because of just how quickly things can change. This storm at this point still is just radar indicated with the rotation, but it did not take long for the structure of the storm to really change and really turn and change into a shape that, at least to my eyes, looks a lot more conducive to potentially producing a tornado in very short order. Again, at this point, still radar indicated rotation. Been checking to see if any spotter reports of a tornado. Have not seen any at this point. But again, still that storm in a hurry really created that hook-like feature to it that you would expect to see and want to see, at least, well, you wouldn't want to see it in terms of the storm, in terms of not wanting the storm to produce a tornado. Mm-hmm. But when the storms do produce that hook-like appendage, that if we can switch over to Max 1 really quick, we have a good look at that storm on radar.
Yeah, let's take a look at it.
Yeah.
And so that's what AJ's talking about. That shape with the hook. We'll draw it again. Main part of the storm, hail producing, Kelowna, possibly seeing that hail moving through right now. And then you get down to this lower corner and you get that shape that's shaped like a hook. You can see that portion, and that's exactly where the rotation is taking place too. Again, looks like a potentially pretty dangerous storm at this point. Still just radar indicated, but the radar is indicating rotation. That could create some trouble near the city of Riverside. And then it's going to move up closer to Highway 218 to the north of that. So folks near River Junction, east of the highway, it's, again, just going to be a very close call. We don't want you to have to mess around with this. And instead, you should be treating it with pretty serious respect as we see at least some sign of this storm potentially producing a tornado as it continues to gather strength. I'm going to look our debris detection. Moves into the area, but it would be this portion that's just near Richmond and moving off to the northeast. So that is the ominous portion of the storm for sure.
Absolutely, and like you said, Corey, one of the storm where it really would be difficult to see that tornado if it did drop one. It would be, like you said, at least partially rain wrapped. Looks like you've got a decent view of it pulled up at this point on our Washington City cam.
Yeah, we're gonna zoom in a little bit here. As we get closer, storm again passing safely north of Washington. You're not included in this tornado warning, but it's pretty much due north of the Washington area now. Again, just right along Highway 1 as it moves out of Washington toward Kelowna. And again, this would be the portion of
How long will you...
the storm.
How long until you'll be home?
It's a little tough to see, and the rotation on this storm, if it's producing a tornado, it would be right along where we're looking at our city cam.
Switch back over to that city cam. There we go.
Oh yeah, thank you.
I should fucking...
yeah, it is potentially within those clouds. Again, the portion of the storm that could produce that rotation well within the view of our camera, but it's just hard to tell based on the color that we've got in the sky. Those grays tend to blend together, and so we'll just have to deal with what we've got. But it is what we're tracking here, and why that...
Because KCRG is saying it's trying to form a tornado, and I don't fucking know where.
Tornado warning continues until about 4:30 today.
It is, but looking at the camera, I can see kind of a lighter patch of clouds that's in between. That cell phone tower that's in the middle of your screen off to the right side of it, there you go, now pretty focused in the center there. I can't quite tell if it's moving in a rotating way or just a left to right way, but certainly an area of cloud cover there that's a little bit lighter in color, moving pretty fast from left to right across the screen from what I can see.
I don't even have KCRG. I'm looking at the fucking website.
Again, still really tough to tell in terms of the exact degree of what these clouds are doing in terms of if they're trying to produce a wall cloud or what type of rotation we're looking at, just because, like you've talked about, not great color contrast, a little difficult to see what we're looking at there, but this would be the chunk of the storm that if it were to produce a tornado, this is where it would come from.
Let's do the double box if we can. Max 1, big picture. Max 2.
Didn't fucking hear the last part.
Small picture, so we can get a look at that Washington camera and don't lose our eyes on it. But there is a new severe thunderstorm warning. That does include the city of Washington.
Really quickly, if we switch the big screen over to Max 3 and keep an eye, or if we can, keep the little box open of Max 2 so we can keep tabs on that storm. There we go. So this kind of gives you a big picture view of what we're looking at as these storms are moving through. Again, you've got your tornado warned storm that is currently approaching, getting close to the south side of Iowa City. Looks like it'll pass to or at least the core of the storm will pass just to the south of downtown from what it's looking like currently, but certainly going to be a very close call there. Play it safe if you're in Iowa City and go ahead and get to your safe spot, not just because of this tornado warned storm moving through, but again, because of that line of storms that is coming in behind it. That line of storms capable of producing hail and damaging winds as well. And of course, we do, again, that tornado threat.
You can't see anything. You can't fucking see anything. Okay. This is not good at all.
That is going with the storm that has had tornado warnings on it again since we started tracking it with that first tornado warning that was near the Ottumwa area. So for quite some time now, the storm has had rotation with it. At this point, it does look like it has been radar indicated for most, if not all, of the duration of it. But there was a period of time there where the storm system, or the storm cell did kind of look like it was trying to situate itself or position itself in such a way and kind of change its structure a little bit to where it might produce a tornado. At this point, again, still haven't seen much in the way of radar evidence of it.
However, we did just get some information from the National Weather Service. They do have reports of a tornado on the ground south of Kelowna, or there was, at the very least. So the storm perhaps has at least produced a tornado at this point. And so if you live anywhere near Kelowna, we've been telling you to get into shelter. Same applies to Riverside and Hills. Hills would be along the line of where this storm is headed.
Absolutely, and we'll go ahead and get a fresh storm track on this portion of the storm that, again, would be your portion of the storm that would produce a tornado, moving off at about 40 miles an hour. Let me verify that is correct information.
Still 40. Yep.
Still 40. Okay, so yeah, let's get a storm track put on this. And again, on this portion of the storm that does have that rotation within it, that would be that largest threat for producing a tornado. Over the next 45 minutes, it will be moving off to the northeast towards Hills by the time we get to 429. By the time we get to 449, approaching West Liberty, Cedar Valley by 457, Cedar Valley Park by 458, and getting towards Rochester by the time we get to 5 p.m. Again, this storm has been rotating and had tornado warnings with it. Again, some possible evidence there that it might have at one point produced a tornado and had a tornado on the ground. So a storm that does need to be taken seriously if you are in the path of it. Again, lowest level of your home is going to be where you need to get out of the way of it, making sure that you are either in your basement or ground floor of your home, in a closet or a bathroom, somewhere where you are able to kind of duck out of the way of this storm. And again, make sure you're staying away from any windows as well until the storm passes by. But again, behind this initial tornado warn storm, still looking at that line of storms that is moving through, also capable of producing some hail as well as some damaging winds.
Yep, and that storm, again, reports from other folks of a tornado close to Riverside. Down in that area of northern Washington County. So we still have some spotters observing it at this point, or at least very recently. And so it's those areas where at least a funnel cloud is taking place, but at least intermittent rotation that's being observed by folks right in the area. So the good news is that we at least have people that have a look at it, and that will show that we should see. At least if something happens, we'll know about it. That's the good news, at least at this point. And the rotation stays fairly strong within the storm, both at the low levels where tornadoes form and up higher in the storm, which would further facilitate the potential for large hail. So if you live in Iowa City, again, portions of the city south of Highway 6 are included in this tornado warning. It does look like the tornadic portion of the storm may miss you just to the southeast, but it's that area where large hail would be possible right along there too. So you certainly do want to still seek shelter. Severe thunderstorm warning continues for pretty much all of Johnson County to the northwest of this tornado warning. No matter what, it does look like strong storms are about to head through.
Absolutely, and it looks like currently that area of rotation is just to the southwest of Hills, and again, just very, very close to Riverside in that area. So if you are in Hills and Riverside, you need to be in your safe space now. Again, basement, lowest level of your home, in a bathroom or a closet, ideally as far away from you can get from any windows that would face to the outside. That is, again, with the storm system that is moving off to the northeast. Again, had spotters keeping an eye on it. At this point, not seeing anything on our that would indicate debris being wafted into this storm. But again, a storm that has been rotating. Some spotter reports that it would have again potentially produced a tornado at some point, and again has that rotation with it. Type of situation, type of storm, you are going to want to make sure you are getting out of the way of it, getting down to your safe spot.
Yep, so let's take a broad overview on Max 1. If you can keep the boxes, that would be great. Put Max 1 in the spotlight there. This is what we're dealing with at this hour. 3 to 4 warnings in effect right now. Just 3 warnings, excuse me. 2 severe thunderstorm warnings, 1 tornado warning. The one in the center where the individual storm south of Iowa City is tracking. That goes until 4:45 this afternoon. That's for an observed tornado near the Kelowna and Riverside area. If you live in Riverside, Hills, or any surrounding portions of Johnson County and far northern Washington County, you should be in shelter now as this storm continues off to the northeast. To the north of that, there is a severe thunderstorm warning that includes a good portion of Lynn, southern Lynn County, most of Johnson County, eastern half of Iowa County, and northern portions of Keokuk County. 60-mile-per-hour winds possible there. The National Weather Service does include at least a terms of the overall arc and line of storms. This will take us through the next hour or two as these storms continue to cut a path across southeastern portions of the viewing area, right where that severe weather outlook was as it tracks to the northeast. So Iowa City, You're seeing some rain, potentially some hail in portions of the city already. More storms headed your way at about 4:35. Anamosa closer to 4:54. Monticello close to 5:04.
Not my bag.
Cascade at about 5:18. Dubuque closer to 5:47. So it's a little bit later than we've been discussing so far this afternoon, but it's still headed your way. You'll at least get heavy rain, the potential for some gusty winds. Dickeyville, that's in southwest Wisconsin. Grant County, 5:56. DeWitt over in Clinton County, close to 6:10. And there are little storms moving toward the Quad Cities as well. Just not the best time to be traveling across much of eastern Iowa now, and certainly not most of all in southern Johnson County, where this tornado warning continues, technically for another 20 minutes. However, it would not be a surprise to see it extended farther northeast as the storm has maintained its strength, and it's still out on its own, too. And so Hills, you are very much under the gun here in terms of seeing that area of rotation approach your area. You can see when we factor in some of the motion of the storm, the rotation is not as severe looking as it was not long ago, which is good. That is a good sign for this storm perhaps losing some of its punch. The tornado that we saw earlier, perhaps, well, there was another report from the National Weather Service north of Riverside. Well, let's keep an eye on that. They are going to, it sounds like, issue a new tornado warning here at some point, which is not too surprising given the stakes and given the storm that we see. So that's likely going to continue here beyond where the current warning is. Areas like far southeast Iowa City, West Branch, West Liberty, all should be considering what your safety plan is here and be ready to enact it as we look ahead as this storm continues tracking off to the northeast. Hills, you should be in shelter now.
And it's not at all surprising that these storms are able to maintain their strength as well as they have. They're in an environment that is fairly conducive to continuing to roll on and, again, maintain their strength and continue to support this threat for severe weather as it has moved through. A quick look, if we can swap Max 1 out for Max 3 in the, there we go. So again, just a very brief look at, again, the overall setup that we're looking at. You've got your clouds that are associated with our line of storms that are currently moving through Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, down towards Washington. But this darker shading off to the right, that is going to be your clearing. And that area of clearing has allowed temperatures to really climb out ahead of these storms, ahead of where the storms have moved through. Still hanging on to 71 in Iowa City, 72 in Washington, 73 in Mount Pleasant. Warm, moist air is what feeds these storms and keeps them going. Dew points are in the 60s, so it is warm. It's just a little bit muggy out there. And that is, again, not just why we have seen these storms maintain their strength as well as they have, but why there's a tornado watch that remains in effect until 8 p.m. tonight for a good portion of eastern Iowa. And of course, that does include where all of these storms are currently tracking through. So again, you can see pretty much exactly where that tornado watch has been issued. That's where your tornado warn storm is located, and also where that line of severe storms is falling in behind it. So again, the kind of the primary thing that we are looking at in terms of threats here is going to be that storm that does have a history of producing tornadoes. That is why it does have that observed tag on it. Again, at this point, moving just to the south of Iowa City, and it does look like as we have a look at the velocity on that storm, you can kind of zoom in and see just to the southeast of Hills looks like is where that rotation is going to be at its tightest, and that's going to be where, again, you are wanting to make sure that you are taking cover if you are in the path of this storm. If you're not under a tornado warning, but if you are just off to the northeast of this storm, well, there we go. You're now under a tornado warning. We now have that new tornado warning that has been issued. So let me jump back over to our radar image here. So again, new tornado warning has just been issued. That is going to be for Cedar, Johnson, and Muscatine counties, portions of them, for this storm that again has a history of producing tornadoes, has at times had a tornado observed with it. So that is going to be tracking off to the northeast as this storm continues to move. We, of course, will be continuing to keep you, or stay on the air with you and keep you up to date with this storm as it continues to move off to the northeast. It does look like with this storm, the motion is still to the northeast at about 45 miles an hour. So we'll go ahead and put a fresh storm track on this and give you an indicator on where it will be going here over the next 45 minutes to an hour. Again, storm motion about 45 miles per hour. It is moving off to the northeast. And we're going to take this track from the area of the storm that would be, again, most likely to produce that tornado. So as it tracks off to the northeast, that is going to take this storm system out towards Downey by 440, West Branch by the time we get to 443, Cedar Valley by 451, Rochester by 454, and by 5 p.m. this storm is approaching Tipton. From that point, New Liberty by 514, 516 this storm is approaching Loudon. And again, this is a storm that does have has a history of producing tornadoes, and is still has a tornado warning associated with it, as it has been able to maintain its strength and maintain its rotation in what has been a pretty favorable environment for severe weather as we have gone through the afternoon on into the evening.
You can see our Washington City cam looking ominous. Again, that second line of storms moving in from the west, a severe thunderstorm warning for that. I understand we've got some video of sort of the example of the heavy rain that we're seeing in many areas. Yeah, you can see that's Highway 218, Highway 1, that's in Iowa City, down the south side of the city. Folks navigating it, but certainly not the best time to be out there and about inside that storm. Their rain is falling because of the isolated storm that we were talking about with the tornado warning, as that keeps moving off to the northeast, and so that is what we're watching carefully. Heavy rain that could affect travel. We're about to get to the evening rush hour. We certainly would like people to use extra caution. Let's take a look at Max 1 real quick. We'll take a look at a couple of different city cams just to see what we can see. Again, Cedar Rapids, you're within a severe thunderstorm warning right now, seeing that intensity of rain falling. No hail, at least, obvious at that point, but there is a report of some golf ball sized hail falling on the south side of Iowa City, which we'll take a look at here in just a second. Coralville showing the heavy rain again, but you are sort of on the very far northwestern side of this storm as it tracks off to the northeast. So let's pinpoint here and take a closer look at this, which the hail potential really has increased, not only with the rotation, but the hail size that we could get out of the storm. It's very close to the southeast side of Iowa City, with at least $quarter to $half sized hail according to our radar. But if we put the traditional radar view back on, it's this portion where the purple is, where we're likely to be seeing hail falling across portions of southeast Iowa City. This is going to be out toward the soccer park and the really far southeast side. A lot of the more populated areas may skirt just around this, but there are certainly folks that live in along those rural portions of the county. But of course, the bigger story remains the rotation that we're seeing, and the rotation that persists across southeastern Johnson County as it moves off to the northeast. You can see Downey, the folks that live in far southwestern Cedar County, that's the next major populated area of sorts that are moving, where this area of rotation is moving in. And so we will go ahead and pull back a little bit, put on a new storm track. It's moving to the northeast, and so that puts it pretty close to West Branch and Rochester too, but Downey, it's within 5 minutes or so, 5 to 10 minutes. So you really do want to get beneath the ground if you can. If you don't have that option, it would be really great if you could get to the lowest floor of your home and seek shelter. Rochester closer to 453, Lime City at 458, Tipton, it's going to be pretty close to you at about 5 o'clock. Now, it may, again, just pass to your south, but it's going to be a close call no matter where we look at it. And so we really do want you to seek shelter out that way too, as this storm continues moving off to the northeast.
And again, as that storm continues to move off to the northeast, it's the, of course, tornado warned storm that we are keeping a very close eye on, but the line of storms that is behind it as well, that again does have that potential to produce damaging winds and some hail associated with it. Down near Washington, you can see that line of storms is approaching that area, and if we could get the two boxes with Max 3 and Max 2, you'll have a good view of our Washington City cam showing where that line is in relation to the city. Again, moving in, excuse me, that is our Coralville City cam, no worries. But Coralville is still one of those spots that is seeing impacts from the tornado warned storm as it passes to the south and east of Coralville currently, but Coralville, right on the heels of that tornado warned storm, you also have this larger line of storms that is moving through. So overall, a very stormy afternoon across especially areas along and south of that Highway 30 corridor. Just to the north of Interstate 80, we do have a severe thunderstorm warning along this line that extends into Cedar Rapids. It includes North Liberty and Solon. Johnson and Lynn counties included in this severe thunderstorm warning as well. Hail up to 1 inch in diameter, 60-mile-an-hour winds. They do have a tornado possible tag on this severe thunderstorm warning. Here's what that means. It means there's a little bit of rotation within this line of storms. As a result, this line of storms does have the rotation and therefore the potential to at some point possibly produce a tornado. Something to keep a close eye on. Of course, the National Weather Service also keeping a very close eye on this storm, and should an area of rotation intensify within this storm, they would issue a tornado warning, and of course we would let you know about that as well. But again, primary threats with this line of storms as it moves through areas currently passing over I-380, but then moving towards Cedar Rapids, Lisbon, and Solon, going to be damaging winds and some hail associated with that.
Let's swap out Max to Max 1 in the main box and talk about what you were talking about, AJ. There is a little bit of rotation. Again, that's why they have that tornado possible tag. If you look just north of Ely, that portion of the storm you were talking about crossing Interstate 380, it'll approach areas near Bertram probably within the next few minutes. Again, not imminent to show the evident rotation like we've seen down toward Johnson County, but it is something that we're going to keep a close eye on from here. It is very much within the rainy area of the storm, so we're not going to have a good look at it from any city cam, nor will your eyes have a good look at it if it decides to begin to produce tighter rotation that could lead to a tornado. So we're going to watch that very carefully. Didn't mean to cut you off there, AJ, but just wanted to sort of emphasize the same point you were making.
Absolutely, no worries at all. But yeah, absolutely something to, of course, keep a close eye on with that line of storms as it's moving through. And with the tornado warned storm that is currently down just currently to the east and southeast of Iowa City. If we can switch over, there we go. We have our, Corey just had it pulled up, but I'll pull it up as well. Our kind of area of concern that we are kind of keeping an eye on as this storm continues to move through. You'll notice that the storm does again have a little bit of an appendage trying to form right there, and that again, if it were to continue to wrap around and kind of form into a hook shape, would certainly be cause for concern for that storm to suggest that it's trying to strengthen up and produce a tornado. But this storm continues to have rotation with it. You can see just to the off to the east of Downey, that is where again we're seeing those reds and greens close together. That's going to be your sign that there is some rotation with that storm. Looks like from what I'm seeing, it has been more than 10 minutes since the last report of this storm having a tornado on the ground. So our last spotter or chaser report of a tornado on the ground more than 10 minutes ago now, but still this storm is rotating, and as we have seen, it does not take long for these situations to change and for this storm to potentially end up producing a tornado.
Let's take a look at our DOT camera again near Wapsie Avenue, which is along Interstate 80. Not a great time to be out on the roads, that's for sure. You can see at least one vehicle pulled over to stay out of the blinding rain, which is the smart move if you're in these situations. Get off the road as far as you can. Don't stop under the overpass. Not the right move, because it's not necessarily the safest place to be in the first place, and it also limits the flow of traffic to cause potential danger there as well. And so just stay safe. But this is pretty close to the area where that rotation is taking place. It certainly still looks pretty ominous on radar as of latest look too, in terms of this storm's ability to produce a potential tornado. AJ was looking at it. We've got it on our radar view as well as from different storm spotters that have been following along. The National Weather Service, of course, passing along all their information too. You can see all those folks that pulled over now be safe getting back into the flow of traffic. Let's take a look at Max 1 real quick. We've got that individual storm. And the good news is that it does appear that the line behind it is starting to catch up just a little bit. If we could get that to fully catch up and overtake the storm. Now, there is occasionally some weirdness that goes on with storms. That's a technical term. But it does, as those storms combine, sometimes it can cause things to temporarily increase in danger a little bit. But often it leads to a reduction in the long term. And so that would be overall a good thing. still enough separation between that individual cell east of where the words that say Iowa City are and the line of storms that could be producing strong gusty winds, heavy blinding rain just to the northwest of it. But it's this portion that's about to finally cross into portions of Cedar County, where we see that potential for rotation as it moves off to the northeast. And that is certainly where the National Weather Service is keeping a close eye on it. It would be right around here if I grab the right tool. That hook echo could persist. West Branch, you're probably seeing some hail at this point as that storm moves through your area and it continues tracking off to the northeast. But again,
I'm about a mile out from the nearest siren.
at this point, it's that
Also, it looks to be like it's over now.
potential for tornadic rotation that we're most concerned with, and that we're
But it's Iowa.
keeping a very, very close eye on, which
One can just spawn in out of nowhere.
I'll show you here for just a second.
Another can spawn in out of nowhere.
And then I'll have AJ take a look as well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
A bunch
well,
of traffic stopped there on I-80.
I wonder if someone, because this is from the perspective of Lower West Branch Road, so that would be near the interchange there, that's east of Iowa City. That makes me consider that folks have probably stopped under the overpass, and that's why traffic stopped. Now, there's a possibility that a vehicle turned or there's been an accident. Obviously, in the blinding rain, that's possible too, but that is just a little extra danger as these storms roll through if you are out on the road. Of course, if you are, we encourage you to pull off the road and find yourself a safe place to ride out the storm. They're moving quickly. It's a one and done situation today. Once this line moves through in this individual cell, things will improve. AJ, you're taking a look at the storm from the velocity view.
Yes, taking a look at the velocity of this storm, and it is showing some signs of trying to kind of tighten up its rotation a little bit. Again, seeing that evidence there where you've got your reds and your greens that are pretty close to each other, just off to the east of West Liberty, to the west of West Liberty, right along. Let's see, that would be Highway 6 if I'm seeing that correctly. But again, just to the southwest of Downey. So if you live in Downey, now's the time to get to your safe space. You really need to be in your safe space right now. Again, that is going to be your basement or the lowest level of your home. If you don't have a basement, that'd be your first floor. Making sure you're getting into a bathroom, closet, somewhere with no outside facing windows. Ideally, you want as many walls between you and the outside as possible. But again, your areas where you have your reds and your greens coming close together, that's going to be that spot right in there where you are going to be watching for that storm to potentially produce a tornado. And this area is tracking off to the northeast and has been moving between about 40 and 50 miles an hour all afternoon. We'll go ahead and get a fresh storm track again on this specific portion of the storm. We'll go ahead and switch back over to our traditional radar view where you can see that storm again has that little appendage in addition to the your velocity showing those reds and those greens really close together, indicating that there's some rotation, trying to tighten up within that storm. Again, that kind of downward facing appendage right there that we've seen now maintaining for the last couple of scans would suggest that this storm is really trying to kind of get its act together and try to intensify and potentially produce a tornado. Of course, has a history of producing tornadoes, but again, something that we are keeping a close eye on. Looks like go ahead.
No. While you're reading that report, we can go ahead and take a look at the DOT camera as well, close to Downey on Interstate 80. Let's see what we got.
And while we take a look at that, we do have a new report in from the Muscatine County. Let's see, that is from a different storm system, excuse me.
No, that's from the one we're talking about, Johnson-Muscatine County line.
Yep, you're right.
So that's right near where you were talking about, that appendage that you're describing, which is passing right near the famous corner of Muscatine, Cedar, and Johnson County, just north of Highway 6. So that would be in the same region of Downey. That would be in the same region moving northeast and passing just to the east of West Branch. Now, West Branch, you're not out of the woods in terms of getting some of that really strong, intense rain, potentially some hail as well, but the tornadic portion of the storm now just crossing into Cedar County based on our view, and that is, yeah, again, like you illustrated, that appendage is at least a storm spotter there. Emergency manager, I believe?
Yes.
EMA for Muscatine County. Thanks to them for their efforts to keep an eye on this storm, and that's what they've seen. Potential funnel on that was picking up at least a little debris.
Yep, so that, again, storm has a history of producing a tornado, and again, that fresh report coming in from the Johnson-Muscatine County line of this storm producing a funnel on the ground with debris, so that would be your tornado. And again, that is going to be on this storm that we've been tracking all afternoon that currently has a tornado warning with it. Currently, the tornadic part of the storm is just to the south of West Branch. We'll go ahead and get a fresh look at this storm on velocity, and wow, there you have it. There's the rotation there has really tightened up with this storm system just off to the east of West Branch and just to the north of Centerdale. So those spots, make sure that you are in your safe space. It is going to be right in that area right there where you've got your reds and your greens really coming close together, where you have that cause of concern for a storm that would produce the tornado. We'll take a quick look at debris. Not seeing anything super obvious on debris, or at least evidence that this storm is lifting debris into the air. But again, a pretty intense tightening of the rotation there just to the north of Centerdale, and that is in accompaniment with this storm that has, for the last couple of radar scans now, had this appendage that has been hanging down to the south side of it, right along and just to the south of West Branch. That, again, right in there, going to be your area that you're keeping an eye on. If it were to produce a tornado, that would be your spot that you're watching for it to produce a tornado. So I know we mentioned it a few minutes ago. We are now going to put a storm track on this and show you where it is moving as we go over the next hour or so. We'll kind of get out ahead of this storm here, and again, we'll pull this storm track based on where that tornadic part of the storm would be. Moves off to the northeast as it has continued to do so over the next 45 minutes. That's going to take this storm system towards Rochester by 4:56, Tipton by 5:02, Bennett by 5:10, Loudon by 5:18, Wheatland by the time we get to 5:22, Sherman Park by 5:24, Lost Nation by the time we get to 5:30. So again, even if you are not currently under a tornado warning, but maybe you are in one of those spots that we just listed, this is a storm that has had a very easy time maintaining its strength over the last couple of hours, and is a storm that will likely continue to maintain its strength for quite some time. It does have a history of sporadically producing tornadoes. So again, a storm that you're going to want to take seriously. Go ahead and take advantage of the time you have now if you're not under a tornado warning, but again, maybe in the path of this storm. Play it safe. Go ahead and make your preparations now, and make sure that you are getting down to your safe space as this storm system approaches.
Let's take a wide view on Max 1 of what's going on around eastern Iowa. Again, it's mostly southeastern Iowa, as we were expecting today. A first alert day, one of two in a row, which will, of course, get to everything you can expect tomorrow coming up in just a little bit. But for this hour, we have 3 warnings of concern here in eastern Iowa. Let's go through them. If you live north of Cedar Rapids, you do not have any severe thunderstorm warnings at this point, but it doesn't mean that you're not experiencing heavier thunderstorms. Heavy rain moving toward Manchester and moving into portions of Clayton, Delaware, and Dubuque County soon. Grant County in southwest Wisconsin, you'll be involved as well. There is one area I want to highlight just for the sake of information near Springville, where we've seen a little bit of rotation on radar. It's pretty broad, but it will at least indicate the potential for gusty winds, and as well as a little bit of hail potentially embedded within this line as it moves to the northeast. So that warning continues until right about 5 o'clock. Quarter-sized hail, 60-mile-per-hour winds. Now, as AJ has been describing, the tornado warning still continues until 5:15 as well. They got rid of the one that was a little bit behind, that expired at 4:45, and the threat had passed. but this one goes until 5:15 officially for what is still considered an observed tornado, although I don't believe they've updated it for a little bit. And so we did have that report, though, of a bit of a funnel cloud. Farther to the south, we've got portions of Washington County as well as Loiza County in a severe thunderstorm warning until 5:15 for 60-mile-per-hour winds. Washington, you just saw the worst of it. Now you'll see some rain and thunder and lightning, but the heavier portion of the storm tracks off to the east. You can see that moving just across Highway 218, heading to folks around Columbus Junction. Conesville, not included in a warning, but you're very close to it. Lone Tree, Hills, Riverside, Nichols, all the places we talked about with that first storm. You were about to see more severe weather as well, at least in the potential to be producing some damaging winds. Does look like they updated that warning. Still observed. Johnson County, you're out of it. Cedar County, Northern Muscatine County, still involved with that tornado warning at this point, as the storm looks a lot like it did just 5 minutes ago when you were talking about it.
It does. You still have that appendage you can see that's still kind of trying to stretch down with that storm as it continues to track off to the northeast. And there we go. You can see stretching down towards the I-80 corridor. That is going to be where that latest radar scan is showing that kind of chunk of the storm that, again, trying to stretch down to the south. And if it were to continue to do that and maintain that, that'd be where you're watching for that tornado to continue, that tornado threat to continue to be. If we can briefly switch over to Max 3, we'll take, again, another quick look at that storm, and we'll have a look at the velocity that's with it too. So again, this little appendage right here, that's going to be the area of the storm that you're most concerned with as far as tornado risk. Of course, areas to the north where you have all these deeper, darker colors, that's going to be your hail risk, where you're seeing a lot of that 1-inch hail, very heavy rainfall in there as well. But for the tornado side of this storm, that again is going to be where this appendage is located. And as we have a look at the rotation within this storm, that's also going to be where you see those reds and greens that are fairly close together. And we've seen this storm maintain its rotation. Of course, it has gone through cycles of weakening and strengthening, and as that's happened, we have seen multiple reports of this tornado, or this storm rather, producing funnel clouds, and on at least a couple of occasions producing tornadoes that have made it down to the ground. At this point, a quick look at debris side of things. Again, not really seeing a whole lot in terms of the amount of, or in terms of debris being lofted into the air with this storm. But again, that tornado warning is still has an observed tag on it, because this storm does have a history of producing tornadoes. And again, still a storm that if you are in the path of it, you are really going to want to make sure you're getting down to your safe spot.
Absolutely. As it moves through those rural portions of Cedar County, however, it's going to come very close to the area near Rochester. Tipton, it's a close shave as well. Large hail is likely in Tipton as that approaches from the southwest, so that's something we'll have to keep a close eye on. We're seeing heavy rain on our Springville city cam as it approaches. Tipton, well, you can see it now. That's the leading edge of this heavier area of precipitation that's going to be moving in our city cam view there. And so that's something that we'll be watching as that storm gets closer and closer. We're looking off to the south from Tipton. And so that gives us a good view as the storm rolls in. We'll have to wait and see what happens in the Cedar County area as this storm approaches. There was a report from the National Weather Service of a tornado 3 miles east of West Branch near Interstate 80 from the Cedar County Sheriff's Office. So the Sheriff's Department there passed that along to the National Weather Service. And so the storm may be still producing what looks like, at least based on the information we have, relatively weaker tornadoes, but tornadoes nonetheless. And that's why we want you to seek shelter as the storm approaches and as it moves off. Now, the good news is that this situation is very much a one and done. We're going to show you what we mean by that in just a moment, but we'll put a storm track here. It does look like if it was near Interstate 80, it would be this. So passing between Tipton and Rochester near Bennett, outside of this tornado warning, but closer to 511. And so it is pretty rural areas of portions of Cedar County, but again, approaching areas that are a bit more populated. So you want to be careful. But like we said, AJ, one and done with this round of storms, which is good news. Sometimes, you can get redevelopment as storms move through, but this time around, it does look like once we can clear these warnings from southeast Iowa, we'll at least see a break.
Absolutely. And we're kind of seeing evidence of that good news starting to show up in how we're seeing our tornado watch evolving as well. But before we look at that, we'll switch over to Max 3 on our, there we go, just perfect. So you can see the line of storms again, big picture. We do have our tornado warn storm that we've been tracking all afternoon. That line of storms that is now pushing through Cedar Rapids and Iowa City down towards Washington. But behind that line, we're not really seeing much in the way of new development. And once that line of storms moves through, it does appear that the severe threat is done for the day. We can see that reflected in our tornado watch. If you live down near Oskaloosa, down in that area along Interstate 80, you'll notice that the tornado watch has been trimmed away a little bit. Of course, earlier in the day, it did include areas around Oskaloosa and around Tama and areas to the south. As that line of storms has moved through, we've seen that tornado watch get trimmed away at, and would expect to see that tornado watch continue to get removed from west to east as we go through the rest of your afternoon and evening, and as that line of storms moves through. But if you are still ahead of this line of storms, in other words, if you have not been hit by this line of storms yet, your severe threat is not over. So make sure that you are continuing to stay weather aware. Cedar Rapids, it does look like that the worst of those storms are moving out of your area right now. Iowa City, looks like you are working your way towards the back end of those storms, especially if you are on the western side of town. Same with the western side of Riverside. Washington starting to get onto the backside of those strongest storms as well. But Tipton, currently, you all are under the path of this tornado warn storm as it does continue to track off to the northeast and move towards your area. But again, that tornado warn storm, the line that's associated with it, both continuing to move off towards the east, and as it does so, we will of course be continuing to keep tabs on this line of storms, and we'll continue to stay on the air with you as long as the tornado warning is there in effect, and then we'll continue to follow the severe thunderstorms on streaming in addition once the tornado warning has expired or moved out of the area. But again, overall right now we'll have another quick look at this tornado warn storm that is moving through. Kind of taking a closer look at it again. Tipton, we've got that look you can see in our Tipton City Cam in the bottom corner of your screen right there. Really good view of that storm as it is moving into the area, and it is again right there just about to hit the Tipton area, but as the storm moves through again, continues to maintain its rotation. Looks like south of Tipton and just to the west of Rochester is currently where the kind of the center of that rotation is and where the primary cause for concern is. But as the storm system continues to move off to the northeast, it's going to be a very close call whether it moves through Tipton or passes just to the south of it. So again, if you are in the path of this storm, if you are in the tornado warned portion of this storm especially, make sure that you are taking cover and getting to your safe spot.
Is there any chance, if there's any chance we could take off the TV9 logo from the corner there and get a better shot of Tipton, or we could take Max 2 full screen for a little bit too, just to get a look at the city cam view as the storm rolls in. Remember, Tipton, you are on the edge of this, so we do want you to be in your safe shelter as this moves off to the northeast, but the perhaps somewhat more ominous look at this storm is just to your south. Thank you, folks in the control room. Appreciate it. Tipton, again, you can see the leading edge. Could see some gustier winds. Larger hail potentially moving through the Tipton area. Still seeing that storm warn for at least quarter-sized hail. I wouldn't be surprised if there were a few larger stones than that. It's actually been a pretty prolific hail producer. We showed you earlier this afternoon that hail that fell down near Ottumwa. We've got some reports near Iowa City as well. We hope to effort some pictures, or if you have pictures, feel free to send them to us, kcrg.com, unews. And then we've got, the potential for some wind damage too. I wouldn't be surprised if winds start to gust here in the Tipton area as this storm continues passing off to the northeast. However, AJ, I would say, looking at stuff on the screen, looking at stuff off the air, storm's still rotating, but it's hard to say how evident it is or just how organized it is. I would certainly still very much treat this as a serious situation, though.
Absolutely. It's at this point looking to see if there are any new reports of checking to see if there's any new reports of tornado on the ground and not seeing anything. Looks like the last report was...
There was that one down near Interstate 80, 3 miles east of Interstate 80.
Yes,
Yep.
one, yeah.
So it's been a few minutes, but we are in pretty rural areas. Road network out there, we're talking gravel roads largely. There is a highway that runs between Interstate 80 and up to Tipton, Highway 38. But there is also a new large severe thunderstorm warning for the rest of the storms. Not the individual storm that we've been talking about with the tornado warning, but the rest of the storms moving off to the northeast. You can see that for Cedar and Muscatine. Oh no, that's the tornado warning, excuse me.
Yeah, a little,
Includes Jones, Cedar, Jackson, Clinton,
Nope.
Scott, and Muscatine counties all until, let's get the time on that.
That is going to be until 6 p.m. Storms capable of producing 60-mile-an-hour winds and 1-inch hail with those.
Yep. So same threats that we've been seeing with that line of storms behind the main focus of that tornado warning, and it's going to be pretty quick. You're not going to have a lot of time between the two, and you can see on our city cam in Tipton, that storm is producing strong winds and a lot of rain as it moves through the Tipton area, and so folks there are getting the brunt of it right now, certainly harming visibility and hopefully not harming electricity as this moves off to the east.
Hopefully so. And we'll go ahead and take a kind of a broad picture here and kind of get a general look at the speed of these storms as they will be moving through. It looks like most of these storms today have been moving about 45 to 50 miles an hour. So we're going to put a storm track on this entire line of storms, stretching up towards the Highway 20 corridor, going all the way down south of Washington where those severe thunderstorms are located. So as this line of storms continues to track off to the east and northeast, getting towards the Mississippi River, we're going to see these storms moving into Monticello by the time we get to 5:01, Cascade by 5:13, Muscatine by 5:22, Maquoketa by 5:30, Dubuque by 5:40, and then they'll be moving off towards Davenport and then off Davenport by 5:54. So it looks like by the time we get into the 6:30 time frame, these storms will be moving into our far eastern counties, and then by that point, they'll be moving out. And as we've talked about, once this line of storms moves through, looks like for today anyways, we will be done with our severe weather threat.
Yeah, and so we are approaching the 5 o'clock hour. Typically, we would be wrapping up weather now and starting our 5 o'clock newscast. Thanks for sticking with us here on KCRG TV9 as we track these storms through eastern Iowa. It's been a little bit of a rough go for folks in the south at this point as those warnings continue for the areas outlined on your screen. Many areas southeast where we had that severe weather outlook earlier today, what we've been talking about as it's a first alert day across eastern Iowa, seeing unfortunately those storms come to pass. We always hope that when we've got that threat that things don't actually pan out. We don't want those storms to affect people, affect their lives, but unfortunately today there's been some reports of damage, and as so far the reports have been limited, but we do have reporters on the way to check out what we know so far, see the extent of it as those storms move through.
And it looks like we do have a new report from just a couple minutes ago. Train spotter reporting a rotating wall cloud near Rochester and Cedar County. So that is going to be with this tornado warn storm that we have been tracking as it continues to move off currently through Cedar County, just now moving through Tipton. So again, this storm that we are continuing to watch, as of last report, did have a rotating wall cloud with it. Doesn't look like there was a report of a tornado with it at that point. But again, with a rotating wall cloud, that is a storm that, again, has the potential to produce a tornado. And this storm, again, does have a history of producing tornadoes at different points during the afternoon. That is why there is that observed tag on this tornado warning. You can see it up there in the top right corner of your screen where you've also got your hail size. That at times with this storm was up to 2 inches in diameter. Now your hail size is down to 1 inch in diameter. Still something to take seriously. Make sure that you are getting out of the way of this storm. Getting down to your safe space as it's moving in. But we'll go ahead and put a storm track on this tornadic part of the storm, or the rotating part of the storm, and we'll have a quick look at where it is headed as we go through the next hour, 45 minutes to an hour. So again, right now it is going to be just off to the east of Tipton, where you have those reds and greens really close together. That's going to be where you're watching for that area of rotation that would lead to the potential for, again, if the storm were to produce a tornado, that would be where your concern would be for it to to drop and be produced. So we'll go ahead and take our storm track and extend it out from that portion of the storm that is rotating, and we'll stretch it out here over the next 40 to 45 minutes as it tracks off to the northeast at around 45 miles an hour. By 5:16, that rotating part of the storm will be approaching Loudoun, getting towards Wheatland by the time we get to 5:20, Toronto by 5:22, Calamus by 5:25, Welton by 5:37, and then moving off towards Riggs by the time we get to 5:46.
Yes, so that storm is keeping its pace. Note that if we pick up Max 2 again, we had the storms that were moving through, producing that intense rainfall and wind. They moved through pretty quickly on the north side of that storm's rotating area. Now, Tipton, this looks like the picture looked just about 10 to 15 minutes ago as another wall of rain is coming in, and some very strong winds are going to come in as well. Right now, it does look like the strongest winds with a secondary line that's behind that area of rotation are taking place just to the south of Tipton and moving across Highway 38 as well. But then they'll be moving into eastern Cedar County too. So I'll show you here. We have these two areas of storms. AJ just described everything going on with this individual storm. It's been tracking to the northeast all the way since Ottumwa, producing rotation, reports of hail, some reports of damage as tornado warnings have continued with it. But it's this Boeing arc that's starting to move into portions of Cedar County that is producing potentially very gusty winds. I'm going to put the velocity scope on here. It's those bright blues near Rochester that could be up to 60-mile-per-hour winds potentially. Radar is detecting these winds pretty low in the atmosphere because it's closer to that radar site that's located near the Davenport Airport, just north of Interstate 80. You can see it as you drive through the Quad Cities. And so we're getting a pretty good look at this storm in terms of where the wind is and how strong the wind is. That radar being not as high off the ground as it is in other portions of eastern Iowa. So that's a useful tool, but it also means that, well, we could see the potential for some wind damage and a pretty good signature for it as the storm continues off to the northeast. Moving at a pace of about still 45 miles per hour or so. Yeah, it's actually, the line's picked up a little bit more speed. So 40 to 50 miles per hour potentially. And embedded within that is still that one storm. It's kept its space. It's not much.
It has been racing ahead of that line.
Yep, it's been being chased this whole time, and I'll actually show you here how much space there is between the line and the potential portion of the tornado. We're talking just a matter of 3 to maybe 7 miles in terms of that area of the storm that could be producing rotation, and it's really kept that space pretty consistently for the past hour or so, and that's why the potential is still there. We're moving near Bennett. We're moving in rural portions of eastern Cedar County, just near Highway 130 as it passes between Tipton and Bennett, and so that tracks off to the northeast. Plenty to seek shelter for there. Still seeing that rotation. It does look like we've got it just along that highway that we just mentioned, 130. It would be this area here. Again, it's not as evident and strong as it has been at times this afternoon, but it still is very much there, and it extends higher up into the cloud. A little farther down the appendage, we're not seeing quite the same, checking out a couple things off the air. Yeah, it's moved up a little bit, perhaps, in terms of its relative position in that storm. And so instead of at the very end of it, we're seeing it more toward perhaps the middle portion. Now, we're not seeing it wrapped up in that same shape that we saw earlier, but certainly still are seeing enough rotation that the National Weather Service went ahead, extended that tornado warning. You see it now extends into portions of Cedar County, or rather, more of Cedar County, taking it into Clinton and Jackson County too. This goes until 5:30. Still expecting half-dollar-sized hail as well as a potential as this storm continues to maintain its strength, maintain its potential for tornadic activity. Really want you to seek shelter, get to the lowest floor of your home, basement, interior room. Both are the way to go here at this point as this storm tracks quickly off to the northeast. Now, we have seen, again, areas that have really started to calm down behind these storms. Things are moving out. We are expecting things to really calm down once these storms move through. AJ, I believe they've continued, you've been taking a look, they're continuing to trim away some of the counties from that tornado watch, I believe.
They are. So we've had the tornado watch that was issued earlier this afternoon, shortly before 2 p.m., and it's in effect until 8 p.m. tonight. But that tornado watch used to extend back towards Oskaloosa in areas around and just south of Tama. You can see those counties at this point have been removed from that tornado watch because as this line of storms has moved through, we've seen the severe threat in those areas diminish behind that line to the point where there's, again, no longer a concern in the Oskaloosa and Tama areas for those strong to severe storms later this afternoon and evening. As this line continues to track off to the east, we are expecting to see a continuation of those of that trimming away of the tornado watch. So that would, again, be next up in line to see that trimmed away would be Benton, Iowa, Keokuk counties as we go through the next half hour to an hour. And here's the reason why that is. We're seeing this line of storms again moving through the area, and behind the line there's not really much in the way of redevelopment that we are expecting. Right now, Cedar Rapids is seeing that line clearing out of their area. Iowa City now is seeing, especially the downtown areas, seeing the line moving past them. Same with Riverside, Washington as well. That line is now pushed for the most part off to the east of their area, and we'll continue to see that line moving off to the east as it does so, taking that severe threat with it. Within this line, we'll go ahead and kind of start back talking again about this storm that is the tornado, that does have the tornado warning on it. It does have an observed tornado tag with it, because at times we've seen this storm produce tornadoes and produce funnel clouds as we've gone through the afternoon. At this point, it does look like the storm system, or the tornadic cell, the storm that has been just out ahead of this line, is starting to kind of lose its lead on that main line of storms. So what I mean by that is we have your storm here, and this is a storm we've been concerned about with producing tornadoes this afternoon. But behind it, we have this other line of storms that has been trying to catch up with that tornado, or the tornadic storm, through the afternoon and evening. And as Corey had mentioned a little while ago, if this line of storms is able to catch up with and overtake this rotating storm, sometimes what we can see is that it kind of takes away that threat for, or kind of reduces the ability of that tornadic storm to continue rotating and continue producing tornadoes. So again, we're continuing to monitor that. Looks like it's the lead storm that has that tornado warning on it. Does look like it's starting to kind of lose that distance just a little bit ahead of that main line, but still has just enough space ahead of it that it is continuing to, again, have that risk for some strong to severe storm itself, but again, that rotation that is with it. Quick look, again, looks like it's not seeing anything, not seeing a specific, it doesn't look like the rotation is as tight as we have seen it at different points during the afternoon. But again, you can still see kind of a broader area of rotation where you've kind of got your reds and your greens that are kind of closer together there just off to the north of Bennett. So that again is going to be that area that we're keeping a close eye on as that storm continues to track off to the north. And that's again where that appendage is, kind of stretching south of that storm, where you would be concerned for that storm to produce a tornado if it were to see that rotation strengthen and tighten up.
Indeed, and just a report of a possible tornado touchdown. It was 7 minutes ago, according to the Cedar County Sheriff. That is an area just south of Tipton. That was where the report came in, just getting this from the National Weather Service. It was hard to see that the bottom of the tornado, the base of the tornado, was actually touching the ground. So at the very least, they saw a funnel cloud, and that was about 7 minutes ago. So it just goes to show that we are continuing to see the potential for very strong storms, severe weather, and tornadic possibilities as the storm carries off to the northeast. And so that's why these various tornado warnings continue. The one that now includes the storm that has the potential to produce a tornado goes until 5:30 this evening. Cedar, Clinton, Scott counties, as AJ's been describing. But we're starting to see that distance shrink a little bit, and we will see that continue tracking off to the northeast. So Wheatland, Toronto, that takes you into other of those communities that kind of dot the Highway 30 area. We're talking down toward Loudon, Calamus, Grand Mound. Those are all tracking off to the northeast. And so those storms, those areas certainly will be the ones that want to be in their safe shelter at this point. No other report other than that report several minutes ago south of Tipton. So no clear indication that this storm is producing tornadic activity at this immediate hour. But it does look like if you don't get that, you're going to get heavy rain, potential for some hail, and the potential for some damaging wind too. So you're not out of the woods for severe weather as that moves through. But again, I'd like to emphasize, as AJ did, once it moves through, we're going to catch a break.
Absolutely.
That's the good news, too.
Yep, so we'll be done for the night tonight, which good news for folks who are wanting to get to bed at a decent hour. You're not going to be going to bed concerned about another round of storms moving through later tonight. That is not what we are looking at with this setup. What we are going to be looking for instead is, again, for that line of storms to move through and take the severe threat with it. Now, am I remembering correctly or hearing correctly that we got some pictures of damage down in Ottumwa?
I believe we've got hail pictures again from Ottumwa. New stuff piling up outside of homes. You can see that does happen from time to time, the bottom of those eaves or those storm drains, and just kind of piling up. There's also a photograph of damage that the hail did, too.
Yeah, it looks like holes in the siding there.
Yeah, so we're still gathering information about what took place down toward Wapello County, but some reports may have suggested hail at least golf ball sized. You throw that at a house at a high rate of speed, that's going to shatter or at least cause those holes to develop in the siding. Looks like the windows are in pretty good shape, so that's good for the folks that own that home. But the siding, yep, happens time and time again. Every year as storms roll through, that's going to be a bit of a pain to have to deal with. We do have another photograph, if control.
Nope.
If you could effort to get that one potentially a lowering it took. It was 49 at 3 o'clock. It warmed to 61 at 4 o'clock, and now it's 66.
Wow.
And you saw the dew point go up from 49 to 62 as well. So a really big change there. There's a little isolated storm out ahead of this main line that is in far eastern Clinton County, near Clinton, but it's going to pass north of the city. It's also going to move into far southeastern Jackson County. That goes until 6 o'clock, a similar severe thunderstorm warning, a large hail, quarter-sized, as well as damaging winds. So I just wanted to illustrate that even if you're not within these warnings, you are seeing the potential for some strong storms and plenty of lightning, plenty of heavy rain. There could be even some small hail mixed in too. So I'll put this radar in motion. Folks in Delaware, Clayton, Grant, Joe Davies, Jackson County, you're yet to see these storms really move through, and so you still have more opportunities for heavy rainfall as well as a little bit of small hail. So far, these storms have behaved themselves. No reports of strong winds, no reports of rotation the farther north that you go. It's not too far to the south. That line of difference is pretty small as this tornado warning that continues for far eastern Cedar County and portions of Clinton and Scott County until 5:30. And remember, it's the main storm out ahead of it. It's this isolated cell that we're watching for the potential. So if you live in Wheatland, Calamus, Grand Mound, Blue Dorn, even Welton, even Lost Nation, as you look a little bit farther to the north, they're likely seeing some of that hail right now. But it's this area pretty close to Wheatland that we're seeing perhaps the rotation start to pick up a little bit. If I just put it in the velocity view. Again, it's not the tight, close rotation that you see in every storm that would be imminently producing a tornado, but certainly a possibility as this storm moves through. Though it is, again, oh, excuse me, I hit the wrong button. Bear with me, folks, as we navigate our computer interfaces. Wheatland, again, is the folks on the very edge of this storm, and so that's where some of the rotation is possible. Pinpoint again portions of Cedar County and as well as Clinton County. It's a little tough to discern again, but it is there It does extend a little bit higher into the cloud. And so I think that's what we're facing in terms of where this storm could be rotating at this point, or potentially producing a tornado. Lines up with what you would typically expect given the location in the storm. But then I would say folks near and north of Highway 30 want to use extra caution as things move off to the northeast. Again, at the very least, you're going to get that storm behind it. Severe thunderstorm warning continues for the line of storms behind it, and so you will see those storms produce heavy precipitation, strong winds, potentially hail as well. This line not quite as uniform as it was perhaps just a little bit ago. Maybe starting to see a couple of different cells split off within that.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it does look a little bit like what we're seeing there, so it'll be interesting to see how those cells evolve here over the next half hour or so. Again, something we will be keeping a very close eye on as this line continues to track off to the northeast. But something that was kind of interesting to note with this line of storms as it's moving through, and something we've talked about through the afternoon, with this tornado warn storm, it's been out ahead of that main line. It's kind of been by itself, sitting there without any interference from that line that's behind it, but it does look like we're now starting to see that main line starting to catch up with that storm here over the last couple of scans. If that trend were to continue and this line were to overtake that tornado warn storm, there is the potential that that would kind of reduce our tornado threat, weaken that storm, and of course that would be a good thing for folks who are in the path of this storm as it continues to track through. But again, an interesting development here, kind of noticing, that line looking to kind of split off into at least 3 individual cells from what I can see at this point.
Which happens from time to time. You do occasionally get changes in the atmosphere, changes in the wind in the atmosphere shift as different weather disturbances and levels of the atmosphere move through the atmospheric flow. Things do change. And so sometimes that can take what was formerly conditions ripe for a line of storms, changes it into one that is ripe for individual storms. And we've seen that happen before. It's not super common, but maybe witnessing that happening right now.
Yeah, so again, something worth keeping a very close eye on. Of course, if this line were to break apart into individual cells, of course, would need to closely monitor each of those cells to check and see if they're rotating, how much they're rotating, and if that would warrant any kind of additional warnings on those storms. But for the time being, what we are looking at is, again, that primary storm that has the tornado warning on it, and that's what we've really been tracking throughout the afternoon. And then, again, that line of storms that has been falling in behind it. So right now, a quick look in at that tornado warned storm. You can still see that appendage that is kind of stretching off to the south of it. Looks like the tightest spot of rotation along that appendage is going to be just to the north of Calamus, right in there. So that would be, again, your primary area that you're having to keep a close eye on for rotation that could potentially produce a tornado. That does track pretty closely with where that appendage is stretching down and kind of coming to a little bit of a point, maybe just a little bit of a kind of a head there at the end of it. So again, that portion of the storm right there, just north of Calamus, that would be the part of your storm you'd be worried about producing a tornado. But even to the north of it, this heavier, darker coloration in here, and of course you have a little darker, heavier coloration within that appendage as well. Both of those would be spots where you'd want to watch for that potential for hail. Currently, this warning does have hail with it that is 1.25 inches in diameter. So that is all the more reason to take the storm seriously, even if you are far north of that tornado warn or the tornadic part of the storm. Lost Nation would be an example. Or if you are just to the south of Lost Nation, again, currently getting heavy rainfall, likely getting some hail as well. So you'll want to make sure if you're in the path of this storm, regardless of whether you're under the tornado, this specific tornadic part of the storm, still want to make sure that you're getting down into your basement or lowest level of your home, a closet or bathroom, away from any windows with as many walls between you and the outside as you can.
We do have some new pictures sent to us from a viewer, again, down by Ottumwa. This is where this all started this afternoon, and it involves what could be a funnel cloud. Of course, static photos, a little tough to tell sometimes because sometimes things can look like a funnel cloud and not be, but this certainly would raise my eyebrows and make me concerned that you would be facing the potential for tornadic development. They also saw a lot of heavy rain. And so 2 rounds of storms in Ottumwa caused a little street flooding too, and you can see that. So don't drive through that if you don't feel like risking your vehicle. That's probably a smart thing to avoid because even though that water isn't necessarily flowing in a way like it would coming from a river or stream, You don't want to wind up with that car that's stuck in the middle of the road with its blinkers on and nobody in it.
Absolutely, yeah. That is not good for when the water, of course, recedes. You've got to get the car out of the way as soon as you can, so that creates an issue there. But in addition, you don't know what's submerged under that water. Even if you're familiar with what the road looks like when there's no water on it, you don't know if that water has carried something under that could damage your vehicle or cause any issues there. So, and you also don't know if the road has been washed out to a certain degree or not. So again, all the more reason, if you come across those flooded roads, make sure that you are just playing it safe. Turn around,
Sure,
don't
it's
drive
not
through
a
those flooded
fall.
roadways.
Yep, for sure. Let's take a look. Oh, we've got it up already. Thank you, folks. We've got Max 1 up in the main screen. And remember that today is a first alert day, but so is tomorrow. So let's talk a little bit about what we could be facing as we go into your Friday, as we wind down the storms that we're seeing today. We'll give you a recap of where they're standing here in just a minute, but I wanted to get a little information since this is typically our newscast time. So we do have a severe weather outlook from the Storm Prediction Center, which was impeccable today. They did a great job with that forecast, and our information that we gave you, our first alert days from days ago, lined up really well today as well. An enhanced risk for severe weather for the area in orange. You see down toward Washington, Mount Pleasant, Ottumwa, Oskaloosa, a lot of the same communities we were talking about affected today. But a slight risk extends as far north as Highway 20. So Waterloo, Manchester points to the south. That includes areas like Cedar Rapids and Iowa City as this next storm system moves through. This is going to be a different storm than the one affecting us today. It's pretty impressive to get two low pressure systems right one after another within 24 hours. But that's what we're facing here. Individual severe weather threats. Well, we could be talking about similar things as we're talking about today. However, they're lined up just a little bit differently. We've got this area that I'm going to draw on your screen. I'm going to draw this white line, which is about where we're expecting the warm front to be. And so I'm going to put that on each of the pictures here, just to give you some idea. And so it's near and south of that warm front that's going to set up tomorrow, where the risk for tornadoes and stronger wind gusts will be maximized. Now, that doesn't mean that the chance is zero to the north of that warm front, but once you get farther into the cooler side of the storm, it does make it harder for those particular threats to materialize. You see that damaging wind threat goes a little bit farther north than the tornado risk. However, one thing to note, the risk for large hail is pretty much the same, both in that enhanced risk and slight risk. And that could be up to 2 inches in diameter again tomorrow, because we're going to have plenty of ingredients still north of that warm front that could produce some of that large hail. We'll show you. Today, we've got that storm energy that snuck in as it moved in. And then we've got a real good break as we go into the rest of the night. No energy for new storms. We're going to be quiet tonight. Quiet for most of the early portion of Friday. But early afternoon, we start to get some of that energy moving into southeast Iowa again. Notice, though, that it doesn't make us far northeast progress. And that does seem like the case here. Trends have mostly shown that in the information we use to make our forecasts. But at this point, we're watching for new storm development as we get toward the afternoon. A few storms could develop in the north as we get toward the latter portion of the morning into the afternoon. And then notice that we get additional development farther south, closer to that energy as we get toward the mid and latter portion of the afternoon. Big storm showing up on Pinpoint Futurecast, at least by late afternoon into the evening. Additional activity as far north as Highway 20. It lines up really well with that severe weather outlook. And also notice that we're talking about this instead at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock instead of today, where it was between about 2 and now about 6 o'clock before these storms really start to move out most areas. Now, tomorrow night, we will start to dry out and turn toward a cooler weekend, but that is certainly a look at what we're potentially facing tomorrow. It's another first alert day. We don't want you to let your guard down as we get into that storm system, too. It's not going to play out exactly the same as what we're seeing today, but it will play out with the potential to produce more severe weather. And then we'll catch a break for a little bit. AJ, you want to give one last look at this tornado warning as we have it for portions of, well, now just Clinton and Scott County, or is it just Clinton County?
Looks like it is going to be just
in a
let me zoom
tornado
in here. It
watch.
looks like just Clinton County from what I can see.
I don't know.
Yes, just Clinton County. So this is, again, the storm we have been tracking all afternoon and been on the air with you for a couple of hours now, keeping a close eye on the storm as it has moved through. But again, we'll take one final look at that as it is now moving off into our kind of starting to move out of our viewing area. as it approaches the Mississippi River and moves on from there. But this storm has had rotation with it throughout the afternoon. It has had a history of producing a couple of different tornadoes, several funnel clouds as well. But it does look at this point like it is starting to get taken over by that line that it has been outrunning all afternoon. It does still have some rotation with it. Right now, just to the west of Welton is going to be where that rotation is at its tightest, kind of in that circled spot right there. So that's going to be your area that you're concerned about as this storm continues to move off to the northeast. And again, that's going to be as it continues to move towards the Mississippi River. At this point, the rotation is back to radar indicated. At time it was observed, but again, starting to see that storm move out, and as it does move out of the area, we'll see that line pushing out with it, and from that point, we will see our severe threat winding down for the rest of our afternoon and evening.
That's the good news. We'll continue to track things here in the TV9 Weather Lab as things continue through the rest of this evening as the first alert day winds down. We'll have more information on any damage reports and your first alert forecast coming up on the KCRG TV9 News at 6. For meteorologist AJ Rickman, we thank you for choosing us and trusting us with your severe weather information. You'll send it back to regular programming and see you at 6 o'clock. Stay with your trusted local news and weather source, KCRG TV9.
Severe weather on KCRG TV9, sponsored by AmeriClean.
Looking for a media career with a digital-first edge? At Gray, engaging content is our passion, delivered across all platforms. Join us to create, inform, and entertain while building relationships and boosting local businesses. With over 100 locations nationwide, your journey can start anywhere. Embrace a culture of growth and
Game's
innovation
gonna shut
with
down.
Gray.
Of course it's gonna
Your
be dead.
future starts now. Visit grayishiring.com to apply today.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here. Immerse yourself in stunning video. Feel the power of movie theater quality sound and consistent volume across channels. Get the most out of live coverage with enhanced internet content. Next Gen TV, designed to be upgradable with the advancements of tomorrow. The future of television has arrived. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
It felt like nobody really cared.
Every kid out there should be able to see themselves as a hero.
Had you not seen our investigation, what would you have done?
Can someone lie?
Yes, absolutely.
How do you respond to that?
If this doesn't change, will people get hurt?
As we sit here today, no regrets.
He took his last breath in my arms.
This costed me my childhood.
I'm a part of a big, big project, and it feels amazing.
Honestly, it saved my life.
What? The fuck it? Okay then. I missed again! God damn! There's nobody in there, dipshit. Oh. My fucking ball, no.
Just in tonight, the Army's top officer forced to step down will go live to Martha Raddatz. The dramatic new body camera video of the arrest of Tiger Woods, accused of DUI. The moment officers realized it was the golfing great who'd rolled over his Range Rover and taking a field sobriety test.
So at this time,
I think, pretty sure pretty
The
sure I
stunning
live this
testimony from the doctor accused of trying to kill his wife on a hiking trail in Hawaii, the intense scrutiny by prosecutors. The dangerous back-to-back storms, tornadoes, destructive winds, and ice, just as millions travel for the holidays. The chilling new video just coming in, a suspect shoving a man in front of a moving train. And a new development late today, a judge throws out most of actress Blake Lively's claims against Justin Baldoni. And America Strong tonight, the 8-year-old whose stuffed creation is now part of America's mission to the moon.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us.
You fucking mess.
Door and stairs broken after they installed a new air conditioning unit. But she says this is the least of her worries.
I'm serious.